Did you know that studies have shown only about 1 in 5 Americans truly understands the documents they're signing at a real estate closing? Think about that for a second. That means roughly 80% of buyers and sellers are signing one of the biggest financial transactions of their lives without fully understanding what they're signing. Can you imagine the kinds of mistakes that could happen? Mistakes that takes months to fix, cost thousands of dollars, or don't get discovered until years later. Unfortunately, I don't have to imagine those mistakes. I'm Caitlin, an attorney with Legacy Title Agency, and after handling thousands of real estate closings throughout Michigan, I've seen closing disasters that most people don't even realize are possible. In fact, that's become our mission at Legacy Title. Not just to help people close on their homes, but to educate buyers, sellers, realtors, and investors so they can avoid these expensive surprises before they happen. So let me ask you a question. Imagine you've been happily married for 20 years. You bought your home together, you've both made the mortgage payments, you've remodeled the kitchen, you've raised your family there. Then, unexpectedly, tragedy strikes. Your spouse passes away. As you're meeting with the attorney to settle the estate, you hear 6 words that completely change the conversation. Your name isn't on the deed. Wait, what do you mean I'm not on the deed? I've lived here for years. I've helped pay for this house. How could I not be an owner? Believe it or not, this happens more often than you would think. And by the end of this video, you're going to learn why this mistake happens, why being married doesn't automatically put you on title, how to verify whether you're actually an owner, and the simple step you should take before every closing to make sure this never happens to your family. So, let's start with how does something like this even happen? Most people assume that buying a house and taking title are the same thing. They're not. Buying a home is the transaction. Taking title is deciding who legally owns it. And that decision is made in one document, the deed. Not the mortgage, not the purchase agreement, not the closing disclosure, the deed. The deed is the legal document that determines ownership, and that's it. If your name isn't on that deed, you may not legally own the property. Even if you've lived there for years, helped pay every mortgage payment, paid the taxes, or remodeled every room in the house. Now, before everyone starts panicking, sometimes this is intentional. There are perfectly legitimate reasons why only one spouse may take title. Maybe the property was purchased before the marriage. Maybe it's an investment property. Maybe there was estate planning involved. Or maybe it was simply the couple's decision. But that's way different from believing you're an owner and later discovering you aren't. Now, this brings us to one of the most important conversations you'll have before closing, something called vesting. Vesting simply means how ownership of the property will be held. Think of it as answering a very important question: who owns this property and what happens to it in the future? In Michigan, there are several ways to take title. If you're buying by yourself, that's fairly straightforward. You only have one option. But if 2 or more humans, if 2 or more people are buying together, you do have options. To hear more about those options, hop over to our vesting video. But for today, the important thing isn't memorizing all those terms and options. The important thing is understanding how you take title matters. And if nobody asks the question or nobody reviews the deed, mistakes can happen. Now, here's how we see this play out. Everyone gets to the closing, there are dozens of documents, everyone's excited, people are signing right where they're told. The lender is ready, the movers are scheduled, nobody slows down long enough to ask one simple question: whose names are actually going on the deed. That one question could prevent years of headaches. Here's another misconception we hear all the time. My spouse signed the mortgage, so they're an owner. Well, not necessarily. Signing mortgage documents and owning real estate are two completely different things. The mortgage and the note deal with financing. The deed creates ownership. Always remember that. We need to be looking at the deed. Now here's the biggest pro tip in this entire video. Before your closing, ask your title company for a copy of the deed that will be recorded. Take 2 minutes and read it. Verify every owner's name, the spelling, the vesting, the marital status, if there is one, and make sure everyone who intends to own the property is actually listed as a grantee. That's the buyer. Those 2 minutes could save you thousands of dollars later. And hey, if you're using Legacy Title, we'll automatically give you this information. And we go one step further when we create deeds, and we provide a simple document that goes to all buyers and sellers with the deed's information on it. So even as a buyer, we make certain you are reviewing who is on that deed and how it looks before the closing. Now, let's say you've already closed and it wasn't with Legacy, or we just forgot what those papers said, or who knows what, but something happened. And we're now realizing our spouse isn't on title. Can this mistake be fixed? In many cases, yes. If the current owner wants to add a spouse to title, that can often be accomplished with a new deed. But this is where people get themselves into trouble. Changing ownership isn't just simple paperwork. It can affect estate planning, taxes, creditor protection, future inheritances, and in some cases, mortgage obligations. For example, if there's an existing mortgage, you should never assume you can simply prepare and record a new deed without understanding whether your loan documents contain restrictions or whether there are other legal considerations we may want to think about. Many transfers between spouses are protected under federal law, but every situation is different. We highly suggest you seek an attorney and get legal advice before preparing any deeds. That's why it's so important to talk to these qualified professionals. The goal isn't simply getting another name on the deed, right? The goal is making sure that it is done correctly. Now, one final tip. After every closing, save a copy of your recorded deed. Not just your mortgage paperwork, not just your settlement statement, the actual recorded deed. Because whenever questions arise about ownership, that's the very document attorneys, title companies, and courts will look at. So let's simplify everything really fast. Before you close, understand who is taking title. Ask questions about vesting. Review the deed before it gets recorded, and never assume that marriage automatically makes you an owner. And if you discover a mistake after closing, don't panic, but don't ignore it either. The sooner it's addressed, the easier it usually is to fix. If this video helped you better understand one of the most overlooked parts of buying a home, make sure to subscribe to Legacy Title Agency. Every week, we publish practical videos that help Michigan homeowners, buyers, sellers, realtors, attorneys, and investors better understand title insurance, deeds, probate, trusts, estate planning, powers of attorney, and everything that happens before, during, and after a real estate closing. If you're buying, selling, refinancing, or simply have questions about your property's ownership, visit legacyclosings.com. You'll find free guides, educational resources, and tools designed to help you avoid costly mistakes before they happen. At Legacy Title, we believe an informed client is a protected client. Our mission is to make every Michigan closing safer, smoother, and free from the surprises that can cost families thousands of dollars. I'm Caitlin with Legacy Title Agency. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll help you close with confidence.